Vysíláme živě z BA kampusu v Olomouci.
Welcome at the debate of the Czech-Israeli Center for Innovation and Partnership. My name is Tomáš Jelínek, and I'll be moderating today's debate about the Jewish history of Olomouc region, about the Czech-Israel relations, and about the opportunities what can bring Czech-Israeli cooperation. I am very thrilled that I have here two special guests, Ambassador Danielem Meronem and Evou Kalousovou from Jewish Studies of the University of Palacký. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So allow me to start, Daniel, with the question, what the Olomouc region means for you.
Thank you very much, Tomáš, and thank you very much for inviting me here to the Moravian Business College in Olomouc. It's a pleasure to be back in Olomouc, a beautiful city and a beautiful region. I've spent many times visiting here to the scenic mountains, to the towns, to the cities in the region. But it's also not only the nature that's brought me here, it's the history and the friends. For me, my wife had family living in Bruntal, who in the time of war were running away from the Nazi Germany, and they came to Olomouc, and from here they were sent on deportation to the camps. And we last year came here to put Stoppelstein, the memory stones, in memory of them, in the center of the city, here, and we see in the background. And it was a very moving moment for me and my family, and that connected us to this place. It's just not another town. And I will also say that I have friends here, and it's always good to be back and see these friends.
If I can ask Eva, it's Daniel mentioned the Jewish history of the region. You have been studying modern history of the Jews in Olomouc and in other cities in this region. I mean, how would you value the contribution of the Jews to the development of the city, of the science and the business?
Well, there were several today with changed nationalities, religions, people of various backgrounds living in the city and all around, also in Czech lands. And that's, I think, what made the country very special, very colorful until the 20th century. And among other groups of people, Jewish people were very significant. And there were several stages of their living in the city and the region. They were living in Olomouc as one of the first cities in the Czech lands, especially also in the Middle Ages. Then they were expelled. But then in the modern times, which we are concerned about today, they were coming back and they were starting business like mold factories or many others. And because of the topic that we are interested most, there were also many scholars, doctors, medical doctors, university teachers. And as you can see, maybe in the background, not here, one of the doctors, medical doctors, that very much had impact on the hospital here, on the medicine, was Dr. Rudolf Bacher. And I think we can...
It was an innovator of his times.
Yes, he was one of the biggest stars of the medicine, I think we can say, because he was not the inventor of X-ray medicine and machines, but he was the one who made it famous in a way. He was born in Zábřeh, a town not far from here, and then he studied at German University in Prague. Then he did some military service and entered Olomouc hospital, let's say. And he immediately, although he was a surgeon originally, started to work with the new machine, X-ray machine. And he was very, very agile. He was working over time, he was examining hundreds of patients. Maybe we can see some more pictures because he had very specific details about that. This is from the records when he was born. But his work was so much recognized that the head of the hospital wanted to start specific department for the radiology. He, for example, focused on the ulcers of stomach because he knew that like 50% of the ulcer troubles would lead to carcinoma, to cancer. So he suggested that, say, like radical surgery operations should be done to the patients, and then the problem would be solved. Also, here you can see the practice. You can see that it's the beginning of the radiology. What is maybe interesting for the audience is that X-ray machines were used for fun in hotels. For example, in Prague and other places, people used the X-ray machines to search for the problems, but they were not common in hospitals. So Olomouc Hospital was very unique, and Dr. Bacher was unique in the research and in the use. This is his wife on the left. We can see his notes, and he examined really hundreds of patients.
So thank you very much for mentioning this name, because in the last months there was established the Center for the Czech-Israeli Innovations and Partnership, which wants to bring in the collaboration on the medical healthcare innovation. So this is Mr. Bacher is the great example, and I remember reading that he was when he had the funeral, that 100,000 people came because his work was really appreciated. Mm-hmm. So it would be great if he could, in a way, contribute in the diagnostic in the same way. I would like to ask Daniel. We have spent the whole day in Olomouc in different meetings. Do you see any special potential for the Olomouc region for the cooperation between Israeli and the Czech institutions?
Yes, definitely. I think there's great potential in different fields, the field of innovation, science, exchange of students. We already have here nearly 70 Israeli students studying at the Palatsky University Medical School. There is a Center for Jewish Study at the Palatsky University. And of course, there is this important center for Czech-Israeli Innovation Center for Partnership and Cooperation. And this will be, I think, a magnet for experts around the country, beyond the region, to come and to look for ways to cooperate with Israel in the field of healthcare and innovation. So I got very good response on this potential from the head of the General Hospital, Professor Havlik, from the Hitman, and from the new rector of Palatsky University, and of course here where we are located from the Moravian Business School.
This is great, and it also brings a big commitment to really deliver some outcomes. If I can ask Eva, we spoke about the roots. The many things have deep roots, and we see it in the Czech Republic and many different places. You mentioned Mr. Bacher. It's the Jewish history of the region has its reflection even in Israel. I was very surprised that, for example, the Fanny Noinda from Loštice, nearby from Olomouc, was taken by the former Knesset member as an iconic lady who would represents the Jewish woman's spirituality. So what? How do you see that? I mean, was it common? Was it unique?
I think that, as I mentioned, the coexistence of Jews, Czechs, and Germans, especially in the region, has a wonderful impact on today's society and also on the relationships with Israel. Of course, there is a big tradition of relationships dating back at least to the visit of Professor Masaryk, the future president, to then Palestine in 1927, and then especially when Czechoslovakia despite the embargo, helped the new state of Israel with the weapons and with the training of the pilots here near Olomouc. There's a lot of connections, a lot of stories, for example, also from my hometown, Uherský Brod. There was one young medical student, Gidi Streusler, who was to be trained here, and he died on the training. But in the interviews of my narrators, he has been seen as a victor next to Weizmann and all these winners, because he was this is the legendary story. And I think when you come to Israel still today and you say Ani Czechia or Czechoslovakia, it has some, something in it. There are many possible positive moments, and that really helps us also in the professional cooperation between universities. It helps one when you come to do the research as an oral historian, and as you mentioned this woman poet, and there are many other examples.
Mm-hmm.
Can I follow up on this?
If you can say, do the Israelis feel the same? I mean,
yes, I wanted to say this, exactly. This is what we feel in Israel. We feel some special bond, some special, maybe even mysterious connection to Czech people. And you've ever visited Israel and you probably felt this. If you say you're from Czechia, in Israel, people are very open towards you, very warm. There is a good feeling, which comes back from the days of Thomas Garek Masaryk and the 1948 War of Independence in Israel, but it's beyond that. Mm-hmm. Because just in the last confrontation between Israel and the terror attacks from Hamas in Gaza, we saw even in the city of Olomouc, they raised the flag of Israel. This is unbelievable. And people in Israel, they all know about it. And actually, this is an opportunity for me to thank the people in the region here, not only the students that are viewing us, everyone, for the support that you have been giving to the State of Israel. And you should know that we appreciate this very much. We want to be reciprocate with our friendship towards Czech Republic. We did manage in the time of the pandemic to give some vaccinations to send them here to the Czech Republic. But this friendship should also be translated to cooperation in academia, in sports, in life in general.
Talking about sports, we just learned today that the local university, the Palacký University, is very good in the sport medicine. And we know that thanks to Israeli trainer, we are good in basketball again. So there are many things we can develop. And I've heard that you're a big fan of basketball as well.
Yes, unfortunately, I can't say much about the Israeli hockey. But we are not a cold country and we don't have much to talk about yet. Although there is a young student from Israel who wanted to become a big hockey player, so he came to Brno, and he's playing there with a university
club.
Yeah, but maybe we should get some more young hockey players coming to Olomouc. But I am following here, and you have fantastic sports in this country, not only in hockey, in tennis, in ski, mountains, in many other things. And I think Israelis and Czechs should be meeting together in many different fields. And it's not only academia, it's not only people to people, it's sports, it's music, it's in wide range of things that we should exchange people to people, and also with this region, with the Olomouc region.
I'm very happy that you said that, because the one idea behind the founding of the center was not only to work on the innovations, but to strengthen the partnership. Because if the business and science should get some good results, the people need to be partners. So this is what we believe in. Can we speak a little bit about the modern Israel society? You already started it. Israel is about sport, about the exercising by the shore, about people going to Europe and taking sport activities. Czech students can go to Israel. They will found a modern society. So, I mean, what are the opportunities to meet for the young people?
Well, take Tel Aviv, for instance. It's one of the most liveliest cities in the world, I would say. If I can divide in a very unacademic way Israel, I would say like Tel Aviv is the young city and Jerusalem is more the spiritual city. I don't know if you would agree with me. And So if we take now the young city of Tel Aviv, it is a city which is open to all. You see parties taking place at 24 hours a day, restaurants, bars open all days. My daughter lives in Tel Aviv and she has a great life. She lives like literally 20 steps from the beach. So I really envy her. Whenever she gets hot, she just goes down to the beach. And a lot of the life is around the water. But not only that, it's on one hand a very laid-back town, but on the other hand, it is a very productive town. It is the capital of the Israeli high-tech. Now, you have to remember that nearly 10% of Israeli manpower or women power is in the technology sector. This is a huge number. In most European countries, it's 2, 3, 4%. We have nearly 10%, and many of them are women who are doing excellently well. My daughter is a computer engineer, and this is the life. And they work very hard. They work day and night, but they also party day and night.
So tell me, who are the most famous Czechs in Israel, living in Israel?
Czechs that are living in Israel. Martin Stropnický, the Czech ambassador.
Your colleague. I mean.
And his wife, who is a famous actress. But also we have a Czech who is very famous, who came from Olomouc. He is a graduate of Palacký University. And that is Limor Hanush. Professor Limor Hanush came 30 years ago to the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And he worked as a young student there, a young researcher. And today, he's probably one of the top scientists in the world on medical cannabis, Professor Hanush. And he's a Czech. He's from Olomouc. This is fantastic. You have an ambassador in Israel, in Jerusalem. There is, of course, Delana Mikelešová, who is the scientific envoy or attaché of Czech Republic in Israel, working for the Czech embassy in Israel. And she's doing a wonderful job there, cooperating and bringing together innovation and science between our two countries. And she is a graduate of Palacký University. So you have some famous Czechs there, and there are others who are not with us, but are very famous in the Israeli public, like Hugo Merom, who was a famous pilot, and he worked for years to bring together people. He passed 2 years ago. And Ruth Bondi, who was also a journalist and a writer, who is also from...
Translator.
Yes, and there's many Czechs in Israel.
So how it is with the Czech students going to Israel? I mean, what is the experience of your school and your program?
I think we are doing we are doing very well, because first the origins of the cooperation are partly our center that I helped to found how many years ago? Around 2003. It's been a long time. During my MA studies, the founder was Professor Ingeborg Fialová first, and her young team, actually, PhD students. It was a wonderful thing, wonderful opportunity to found, Jewish Studies Department or Center after the fall of the communist regime. Nothing like that interdisciplinary center was here. We were very lucky with the support from Prague, from Leo Pavlat and other people. And it's a tiny department, but we survived. And today, it's been a long time since. And I moved also to a different position at the rectorate mainly. And we can say that I think we can boast with the opportunities that not only Olomouc, but also the university does with Israeli partners. I would say Hebrew University of Jerusalem that you mentioned is our main partner. Our strategic partner is also Bar-Ilan University, where I think you studied.
I studied in both.
I know, I both. But it's true. Yeah. So it's perfect match.
What should do students if they would like to study in Israel?
The students,
what are the opportunities?
If they study at the university or universities here, they have the opportunity to go to Israel via several ways. The easiest one is the scholarship that probably everybody knows, Erasmus+, special Erasmus that can allow them to go to Israel for half a year. I think it's very special and very good connection. because many students go to Krakow, it's great, they go to England, or they went to England, now it's a bit more difficult. But to go to Israel and spend half a year, it first needs some courage, especially now during the war, during the conflict. And if they decide, if their family allows them, which is not always the rule, because sometimes I think in our society and media, the image of Israel is the terrorist attacks. But our students know that it's not true. They have a very special, very good item in their CV. They were in Israel half a year. It's perfect. They studied. It was demanding. They often do internships, or for medical students, the rotations. They can do internships in, for example, famous memorial Yad Vashem. And we are building more and more connections. We have cooperation, I should say, also with other colleges, smaller ones, but these are the major ones, I would say.
I'd just like to add to that you said no reason not to go to Israel. I think Israel is the most fascinating for a Czech to go, and it's also the safest place. I mean,
I know.
Yeah, you know this. Every few years, unfortunately, there is an eruption from Gaza, but now it's so safe to walk around Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, every place. And I know Czechs that were in Israel, they enjoyed it very much, and it gave them a lot. So really, it's a great opportunity.
Many of our students actually want to come back. They do return to Ulpan, summer schools, do jobs as Delana and so on. So I think the cooperation is growing.
Yeah, there is also opportunity for the postdocs to go to different labs and work on the biotech technologies. I remember that Professor Abramson from Weizmann Institute has been working with many Czech colleagues. We have a question from the web. It's addressed to Daniel. Do you think that Moravia could be interesting for the Israeli tourist regarding also the Jewish history of many towns here? What do you think? Would they be especially interested in?
I think Moravia is, first of all, a beautiful place. I mean, just the scenery, the nature would be attractive to Israelis. I think that there is also a lot of history, Jewish history here in Brno, in South Moravia, in Olomouc, around the whole of Morava. There's a lot of Jewish history. I mean, some of the most famous Israelis that come from Morava, for instance, Israeli painter Anna Ticho, who is from Brno, and her husband from Boskovice, Dr. Ticho. And this is just one example. There are so many others. And there's a question of connection on how to get to Morava. I think it would be very attractive to Israelis to come to Vienna and just take a 1-hour drive to Brno, and from there to go around Morava and to enjoy the country, or to go to Poland. And many Israelis do go to Poland on these historical memorial visits to see the death camps, and they could continue to Morava from Poland. These are two options, or come to Prague and go east.
My experience is that I used to work as a guide for American and English tourists walking tours years ago, but especially now when guiding professors from Israel or America, they know Prague, of course, they know Kafka, most students. But when they come to Olomouc and they walk, for example, when the city is lit, they just say, for example, you have Mahler, you have Mozart, just stop talking about, because I'm not going to have a lecture, I will visit, because it's as it was called, hidden gem of Europe. Olomouc, they don't know it, and when they come to Moravia or to Olomouc, they are surprised. And the more they enjoy it, so it has potential to grow, I think.
I agree with you, Eva, and I'll just give another example. Take, for instance, a small town of Loštice. There is a gentleman there, his name is Ludek, who's taken upon himself a life mission to educate people about the Jewish history of the place. And it's the most beautiful place with Jewish history, the old synagogue, and he talks about what Judaism is and how they lived, the people there. And there's the famous story that we mentioned before of Hani Nauda about a woman pioneer who was rewriting prayers for a woman in those times, like 150 years ago, was very uncommon. So this is just a small example, but would be very attractive for Israelis to come to such places.
So it's another challenge for us to think to promote the Olomouc, because one of the missions of the center is to show that the Israeli scientists and the Israelis generally can find partners in Olomouc region.
Can I say a word, Tomasz, about the center and its mission on the healthcare? Because the idea of the new Czech-Israeli Innovation Center and Partnership Center is to talk about healthcare and innovation. Now, Israel has been a leader, a world leader in the vaccination. So much so that we have recently been coined the vaccination nation. And we are very proud of this. And part of our success is the way we approach the medical system through our healthcare insurance companies, the Kupat Cholim, through digitization of healthcare. And this experience we want to share with others. And the center could be also a place where this information could be shared with the rest of the country of the Israeli experience in the time of COVID.
Thank you for that. I mean, we wanted to speak mainly about the partnership, but as you opened that, I should say that we are preparing the third Innovation Day and the Smart Healthcare in November, and this would be an opportunity to present some new developments and some new innovations from Israel and Czech Republic, and also the, let's say, new quality of the center, which we should build up till that time. So our time it's running out. So I would like to ask you the last question. So Eva, could you think about what could be the future of the let's say Olomouc Israeli cooperation in the next years? I mean, we have seen Israeli students in Olomouc. You know, there have been different even marriages, marrying people locally.
Yes.
You know, the enterprises joining the cannabis professor Hanush, and people interested in cannabis in the Czech Republic and doing research. The fintech companies. Do you see anything? What would be coming?
I think generally the fields that will develop, it's the academia, the business. Also, we should have mentioned also Melpta, which also has a unique story in the Jewish history, or Czech Jewish history, nearby Olomouc and Přerov. I think there is a great cooperation in the cultural field. We have the festival Dny židovské kultury, Days of Jewish Culture, that I hope will continue. I am sure that the state, today's situation is very positive, very prospectful, and it will just grow. And I hope that the institutions here, Palacký University, a local university, will cooperate together with the society, with also the impact on the local businesses and local institutions, and it will grow.
So Daniel, today we've heard loads of interest into the Israeli experience, the vaccination, the healthcare, just the friendly cooperation, tourism. What do you perceive? What's your opinion? What will happen? Or where are the opportunities?
I think first of all, the foundation is that there is a very close connection we spoke about between the two nations, between the two people. They like each other. And I think that's a very important foundation. So I think when an Israeli needs to decide where is he going to go and do his special studies abroad, he wants to go to Central Europe, where should he go? He hears about Czech Republic. He will remember immediately how friendly this country is, and that will be an impact on him, and there needs to be incentive for him to come to Morava and to North Morava and to Olomouc. I think that there's a lot of good connections that are already being made. We mentioned them. There's a history, current cooperation, and I think in the future we could even see this expand if we do it in the right way of continuing to work people to people, program to program, find specific areas where Czechs are good and Israelis are good, or they can complement each other, and the sky's the limit.
If I can just one word, I'm also very confident because of the COVID limitations. we thought this didn't allow us to go to Israel, but then we said, let's do it like Israelis, like Hebrew University and other partners. And then we organized online series of lectures, several of them. And despite that, we are welcoming now a delegation from Bar-Ilan in a few days. So it's just like wonderful. This COVID didn't stop us.
Very good. So next time about the Czech-Israeli cooperation on sport. So thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to our viewers. And I hope we will see you at some other debate in the near future.